Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Cabbage Head Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Becomes House Husband? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Another day of stressing hero and teacher duties. Midnight is drained from all these works piled up. Now, going back home with no energy left whatsoever. "I'm home," said Midnight, with a tired voice opening the door to her house. "Welcome back," replied a certain green-haired man. The one who greeted Midnight was none other than her husband Izuku Midoriya. Izuku has an easygoing personality with a seemingly permanently closed eyes and a carefree smile always patched on his face. He also sports his signature apron that he always wears wherever he goes to. Midnight teared up as she then clung to Izuku. "I'm so drained, Izuku." "Poor girl, you must be tired from all that work," said Izuku, carrying Midnight like how a parent carries his child. Izuku carried Nemuri to the bathroom and took off her mask. "Take a bath first, dear. Dinner is almost ready," said Izuku as he gave Nemuri a quick peck on the forehead. Kate blushed Nemuri. Even though they had been married to almost 2 years already, she's still weak on these kinds of surprise attacks. Nemuri then took her relaxing bath while Izuku finishes preparing them dinner. After a while, Nemuri walked to the dining table fresh out from the bath only wearing an oversized shirt which by the way Izuku owns and sat her on her chair. "To relieve your stress, here's tonight's dinner. Grilled, fatty wild king salmon with roasted potatoes and salad on the side." Nemuri's eyes glittered up when seeing tonight's dinner. "Itadakimasu," said Nemuri, as she took her fork and plunged it right into the fatty salmon. Her fork sunk in quite easily as the flakiness and fat of the salmon made her mouth water. She held the fork up on her mouth with salmon on it as she drooled while anticipating to taste it. As soon as Nemuri put it in her mouth, she felt as if she was in the ocean dancing with the salmons. The fattiness of the salmon and the somewhat charred taste of the outer skin goes well together, thought Nemuri as she savored the taste in her mouth. "So, how is it, dear?" asked Izuku. "It's so good," replied Nemuri with her mouth full as she helped herself on the dinner Izuku prepared. "Well, glad to hear it," answered Izuku as he also began eating. The two of them ate happily while chatting on some minor things like how was Nemuri's day or whatnot. After they finished eating, Nemuri sat on the couch and turned the television on. She also grabbed a beer on the fridge. When she closed the door of the fridge, Nemuri got startled when she saw Izuku on the side smiling at her darkly. "Eek? Drinking alcohol when you're stressed and tired is a no-no, dear. And besides, what did I say about drinking?" said Izuku, smiling. Nemuri is sweating profusely as she forgot what she promised. She was only supposed to drink alcohol 1 to 2 times a week, and today is already going to be her 4th time this week. Nemuri didn't have a choice but to regrettably return the beers on the refrigerator. After she returned it, Izuku Princess carried her and put her back to the couch. "Wait here, I'll make something for you," said Izuku as he headed back to the kitchen. After a few minutes, Izuku came back with a cup of tea in his hands. "You can drink this instead of beer," said Izuku, giving Nemuri a cup of chamomile tea as he sat beside her. Nemuri's face immediately squirmed as she took the cup of chamomile tea. "Dear, you know I don't like tea, especially bitter ones," voice out Nemuri reluctant to drink. "Ichichim? Did you say something, dear?" asked Izuku, giving Nemuri one of his seemingly innocent smile. "And nothing," stuttered Nemuri as she reluctantly took a sip. The moment she tasted the tea, her surprised expression was written all over her face. What is this, is my tongue playing with me?" Nemuri was surprised by how the chamomile tea tasted in her mouth. Usually, every time she tastes chamomile tea, it's bitter and tasted bland as SHT, but not this one. The chamomile tea Izuku made, however, has a gentle note of apple aftertaste. What's more, there is also a mellow honey-like sweetness that rid of the usual bitter taste. It gave Nemuri a silky and soothing mouthfeel. She closed her eyes and took sip by sip as she savored such delightful taste of a delicate floral herbal tea. "This is so good, Izu. How did you make this?" complimented Nemuri. "Since you don't like bitter tastes in tea, I put a little bit of pure maple syrup to match your taste." Nemuri then leaned her head down on Izuku's shoulder as soon as she finished drinking her tea. I'm really lucky to have you as my husband Izuku, said Nemuri, holding Izuku's hand. I'm also fortunate to have you as my wife, replied Izuku. Now, the effects of the chamomile tea began taking its effects as Nemuri is already feeling drowsy. She then fell asleep on Izuku's shoulder. Izuku carefully carried the sleeping Nemuri to their bedroom and placed her on the bed. Izuku then covered her with a blanket and gave her an embrace on the forehead in which Nemuri unconsciously smiled too. Good night, dear, sleep tight, said Izuku as he turned off the lamp. With another morning, another day begins for our lovely couple. Thank you for last night, Izu. I feel refreshed again and my tiredness is gone, expressed Nemuri, preparing herself to go to work once again. You're welcome, dear. Be careful out there, replied Izuku. After a short while, Midnight is now ready to leave the house. Izu, I'm going to work now, stated Midnight. Izuku then held his arms up and wide, indicating a hug. This is their goodbye hug every day. Midnight embraced Izuku as he gave her a goodbye embrace also. The two then waved each other goodbye with Midnight going to U.S.J while Izuku is left to take care of the house. Guess it's time for me to start, said Izuku, stretching his body getting ready to do today's chores. Just like how he does things every day, Izuku cleaned up the whole house. Washing the dishes, laundry, watering the indoor plants, and sweeping the floor. This took him a few hours before he finished. Now that all that is done, it's time for some groceries. Izuku took his wallet and left the house as he waltzed into the supermarket to buy ingredients for a dish he's going to make this evening. After a while of going around the supermarket, Izuku is finally done picking all the stuff he needs. Izuku then went to the register and walked out of the supermarket with a bag full of goods. It was approximately noon at the time. While he was walking at the middle of Masudafu City, there he saw chaos on the street. There was fire and there are several heroes present. Izuku then asked one of the citizens present in the scene. Hello, can I ask what's going on here? A middle-aged man in a suit then replied to him. Apparently there's a villain inside that pit of fire and he seems to be holding a student hostage. Is that so? Thank you. Well, the heroes will take care of it themselves, thought Izuku as he was about to go back home when he heard a shouting voice inside the fire. Help me, yelled the voice. Izuku immediately recognized the voice as he put down his bag of groceries and ran towards the fire and into the sludge villain. What are you doing, you idiot? Get out of there, yelled Death Arms. The sludge villain noticed Izuku coming onto him and pulled Izuku towards its mud-like body. Oops, I didn't expect this, said Izuku nonchalantly as he got captured by the villain as well. Nichan, exclaimed the student's voice also trapped together with Izuku. Yo, Katsuki-kun. How are you doing? Yeah. Question Izuku. What are you doing here? Stammered Bakugo. Well, I heard your voice so I came to your rescue. Surprise. You call this a rescue? Exclaimed Katsuki as the sludge villain began taking over his body. I'm going to use you as my meat shield brat, yelled the sludge villain as he suffocates Katsuki. My that we can't really have that, uttered Izuku as it caught the villain's attention. Oh, and what are you gonna do about it? Taunted the sludge villain. The villain then flinched when he saw Izuku's closed eyes slowly opening, revealing his crimson-red pupils. This brought shivers down the sludge villain's spine. His instincts tells him, if he doesn't get rid of Izuku immediately, he's going to be killed. The sludge villain then hastily attacked Izuku out of fear when suddenly, a certain man with a typical Western comic book hero look appeared and blocked the villain's attack. If it isn't Toshinori, long time no see, mentioned Izuku, now with his eyes closed as usual. Are you okay, Midoriya? Asked All Might. Yeah, more or less, replied Izuku as he got out easily from the villain's grasp as well as pulling the unconscious Bakugo from its grasp too. All Might, screamed the sludge villain as it attacked All Might with all his strength. Detroit since, roared All Might with blood flowing down his mouth as he punched the sludge villain to smithereens. The pressure from All Might's punch caused gusts of winds to accumulate, making a man-made tornado. With the help of MT Lady, she shielded the heroes present and the civilians from the violent gust of wind. Still as flashy as ever I see, said Izuku on the sides with his hair flipped up from the strong winds while carrying Katsuki. The civilians cheered and clapped their hands in admiration and relief that the number one hero had saved the day once again. A few moments later, Katsuki finally started gaining consciousness, and the first thing he saw when he opened his eyes was Izuku in an uncrowded place. "Where am I?" questioned Katsuki as he got up from sleeping on Izuku's lap. "It seems you're finally awake," said Izuku as he got up. "What happened, Nichan?" asked Katsuki. "You fell unconscious from being suffocated by that pile of mud. I saved you after that," answered Izuku with a smug look on his face. "Liar, I saw All Might was the one who came to rescue us before I went completely unconscious," said Katsuki, squinting his eyes on Izuku. T-face savoring food. "By the way, Katsuki-kun, are you planning on going to UA?" wondered Izuku. "Yeah, I'm going to be the number one hero in the future," replied Bakugo with enthusiasm. "That's good. By the way, how's your mom? After the old hag found out that you got married, she went insane and got even more annoying," replied Bakugo, remembering how troubled he was with his mother. "How about you, Nichan? What are you doing now after marrying that XHBDNST wife of yours?" asked Katsuki. "As you see, I'm now a proud house husband," replied Izuku, acting real proud. "In other words, you don't have a job." Splurt. BLD gushed out from Izuku's mouth after hearing those words from Bakugo. After talking for a while, Bakugo finally left as he still has to attend his afternoon class. By this time, All Might appeared in his skinny form. "You know that kid Midoriya?" asked All Might. "Yeah, I'm friends with his mother," replied Izuku as he turned around to face Toshinori and stretched out his hand. "What is it?" wondered Toshinori. "My groceries all got blown away from that attack of yours earlier, so pay up," replied Izuku with a smile, as he rips money on Toshinori on broad daylight. Toshinori just sighed as he handed Izuku some cash to compensate for his groceries. "Well, I'm going back to the market again. See you around, Toshinori-kun," said Izuku as he went back to the supermarket again to purchase groceries that he lost once again. Toshinori just looked up at the sky and made a heavy sigh of relief. "Thank goodness I made it there in time. I can't even begin to imagine how it would turn out if Izuku decided to make a move earlier if I didn't intervene." Izuku went back to the supermarket to repurchase the goods he lost. After that, he finally decided to head back home with no interruptions. When he was on his way home, Izuku coincidentally saw Midnight with a troubled face surrounded by a bunch of men with stupid looks on their faces. Izuku walked towards the crowd and pulled Midnight towards him. "My, aren't you energetic bunch of men," said Izuku with Midnight's head leaned on his knee. "What the FCK, dude? Mind your own business," complained one person from the crowd of men surrounding Midnight as he grabbed Midnight's arm. The guy tried to pull Midnight towards them, but his hand got smacked by Izuku. "That hurt you, exclaimed the guy, feeling a stinging pain from his hand being smacked. The guy was still persistent as he once again tried to pull Midnight away from Izuku's grasp, but Izuku kept slapping his hands away. This continued for a short while until Izuku finally lost his temper as he slapped the hell out of the guy's face. "Why did you slap my face, motherfucker?" yelled the guy, holding his reddened cheek with a hand mark slapped on it. "Izu's protecting me," thought Midnight, savoring the moment while being held on Izuku's arms with a lewd look on her face. My, I really can't have you behaving like that to my wife now, can I?" said Izuku, with a tick mark on his forehead as his hand is still smoking from slapping the guy. Wife. Every guy surrounding Midnight went agape as they got taken by surprise by what Izuku had said. The guy got shocked for a moment but managed to compose himself afterwards. "What did you say, BTC? If you're her husband, then I'm your father," laughed the guy as a few of the men around also joined in laughing. Izuku didn't reply as he sent another slap on the poor guy's face, now on the other side of his cheek. "I don't remember my father looking like a dried-up pair of ball," replied Izuku, still keeping a friendly smile on his face. "That's it," yelled the guy as he grabbed Izuku's shirt. Before he could even do anything, Midnight shrugged his hand away from Izuku. "Get your filthy hands away from my hubby," exclaimed Midnight, releasing sleeping gas from her body, which made the guy who grabbed Izuku's shirt and the rest of the men around collapse to the ground. Midnight grabbed Izuku's hand and pulled him as the both of them ran. Midnight's quirk doesn't affect Izuku, by the way. After they reached quite a distance away from those maniacs, Midnight and Izuku stopped for a breather. Midnight would have loved getting all this attention from several fanboys/girls if it was in the past, but the one and only attention she wants now is from her beloved husband Izuku Midoriya. "I'm sorry I got you mixed up in that, Izuku," apologized Midnight. "It's okay, dear. I'm just glad you're all right," smiled Izuku. "You," teared up Midnight as she embraced Izuku passionately in public. Izuku reciprocated the hug as by now, the two looked just like your run-of-the-mill stupid couple. After a few more walks, the two finally arrived home with Midnight carrying the other half of the handle of the grocery bag with Izuku carrying the other side. "By the way, dear, how come you came home early today?" asked Izuku as he started unpacking the groceries he bought. "I have no lesson this afternoon and my hero work is being covered by a colleague today," replied Nemuri, taking off her hero costume and changed into a much comfortable homely attire. "If you don't have anything to do, how about helping me prepare dinner?" suggested Izuku, which made Nemuri's face light up. "Really?" exclaimed Nemuri as she waltzed to the kitchen and joined Izuku in preparing food. The reason Nemuri was excited was because she cannot be left in the kitchen alone to cook by herself or else it's going to be a disaster. That's why Izuku is always in charge of the cooking. This time is different as Izuku is there to accompany her. "Yeah, you can start by peeling and chopping these vegetables first," replied Izuku, giving Nemuri potatoes and carrots to peel. "What are we having tonight, dear?" wondered Nemuri as she began peeling the vegetables. "Curry." "I'm excited for tonight's dinner then," replied Nemuri. While chopping the potatoes, the edge of the knife somehow hit her finger as it bled a little. "Ouch." Izuku halted what he's doing to check in his wife. "What happened, Nemuri?" asked Izuku, going towards her. "I injured my finger with a knife." "I'm sorry, Izu," replied Nemuri when suddenly, Izuku grabbed her hand and dizzy on her wounded finger. This made Nemuri blush madly as she got caught unprepared for one of Izuku's surprise attacks yet again. What are you doing, Izu?" blushed Nemuri. Izuku grabbed her and made Nemuri sit on the couch with a med kit on his grasp. "We can't have it leave a scar on your appealing fingers, dear," replied, disinfecting the wound and put a band-aid over it. "I'm really sorry, Izu, I'm useless in the kitchen," apologized Nemuri. "It's okay, dear, you don't have to apologize for something so trivial," replied Izuku, patting her head. The moment they had was kinda romantic when suddenly, Nemuri's stomach growled like it's ready to eat somebody. This made her extremely embarrassed in front of her husband. "You didn't have lunch yet, did you?" asked Izuku. Nemuri just nodded her head in embarrassment. "I'll work something out, wait here," noted Izuku as he went back to the kitchen to prepare something for Nemuri to eat. Izuku cracked up some eggs and picked some fresh tomatoes in their backyard in which he personally grew himself. After a short while of waiting, Izuku arrived with a plate of food on his hand. Izuku put the dish on the table in the living room and gave a spoon to Nemuri to use. "It might not be much, but it will keep your stomach from growling," said Izuku jokingly. "Stop teasing me," muttered Nemuri, playfully hitting Izuku's shoulder. "Well, I'm going back to the kitchen. Just tell me if you finished eating." With that, Izuku left and had gone back to the kitchen, leaving only Nemuri with the dish in front of her. Although what Izuku made is just a simple scrambled eggs with tomatoes, Nemuri still can't help but salivate as she plunged the spoon upon the fluffy scrambled eggs. "Itadakimasu." Nemuri then put a spoonful up her mouth. The flavorful taste of the well-seasoned eggs coated her mouth with deliciousness, and the ripe red tomatoes' sweetness and tartness just made its taste even better. "It's so delicious," Nemuri, stuffing her mouth even more with the dish as she finished eating in a flash. Nemuri washed it all down with a glass of cold water afterwards after eating, and it surely hit the spot. In a few moments, she fell asleep on the couch as she was already full. When he checked up on his wife, Izuku saw Nemuri laying on the couch soundly asleep. He also noticed the plate is empty as Nemuri ate all of it. "She's really a glutton," giggled Izuku, putting a pillow under her head and covering her with a blanket. Izuku took the plate and went back to the kitchen and washed the plate. Musical note. While Izuku was busy cooking dinner, there was an unknown person in black scoping on him from afar on a building with a sniper on his grasp. By now, Izuku is in complete view by the window on the kitchen. The person in black aimed the scope directly on the side of Izuku's head. I can't believe I got hired to kill off some nobody. Well, I can't really say no as the pay is enough to make me live the rest of my life in luxury, said the assassin as he readied to fire his sniper to kill Izuku. Using the assassin's quirk point blank, it made his accuracy to any type of weapon at a superhuman level to the point that he always manages to eliminate all his prey with a single bullet. I got no grudge against you, but for my life of luxury you have to die, said the assassin, firing the shot onto Izuku. As he uses as Barrett's sniper, anyone would have surely had their heads blown after being hit. The bullet traveled at lightning speed towards Izuku and pierced through the window and to his head. Izuku noticed this and held his hand up to stop the bullet by catching it, but the bullet passed through the gap of his fingers. Izuku got hit directly at his temple. Ow, that hurts, said Izuku, plucking out the dented bullet on his temple which is still smoking. I tried catching it but that was embarrassing. It seems I'm getting quite rusty, voiced out Izuku, scratching his head as he turned his sight at the location of the assassin. The assassin saw all of this happen as he got shivers when Izuku turned to look his way. How did he know? The assassin hastily ran, abandoning his gun, which is quite an unprofessional thing to do for a trained killer due to fear. Meanwhile, Izuku wasn't actually looking at the killer but the window with the bullet hole instead. I had this window made just last month, stated Izuku, putting a duct tape on the hole to cover it in the meantime. After that, just like nothing ever happened, Izuku threw the discarded bullet away and went back to his cooking. Back to the killer who tried to flee the scene, he got stopped by a female with a bob-cut hair in a black suit accompanied by two other men with humongous builds comparable to All Might. The killer noticed them as he stopped on his tracks, falling. But first, tell me, who hired you to kill our lord? Asked the mysterious woman. Our lord? That guy? Stuttered the killer. Are you going to tell me or not? Asked the woman once again, now releasing killing intent which can be greatly felt by the terrified killer. Ask my baby instead, yelled the killer, pulling out his pistol and fired it at the woman, but she easily cleanly sliced the fired bullet in two. If you're not going to answer then we have no further use of you anymore, said the woman, decapitating the killer in a split of a second with him not even being able to resist. The bob-cut-haired woman then pulled out a napkin out of her pockets and wiped the BLD on the sword. Dispose of the body, commanded the woman as the two of the guys behind her cleaned up the scene, leaving no trace behind. While asleep, Nemuri's nose caught a whiff of the irresistible smell of curry. This made her open her eyes and groggily walk towards the kitchen to check up on Izuku. You're awake, dear? The curry is almost done, said Izuku, currently stirring a pot full of curry. I'm sorry I didn't get to help, said Nemuri, yawning. It's no fuss, you need rest from all those work you did. Just let me do my part, dear, replied Izuku with his usual kind smile. You're really sweet, honey, squealed Nemuri, hugging Izuku from behind. Can you set up the table, dear? The curry's almost done, asked Izuku. Yeah, I can do that. Nemuri picked up plates and silverwares and put them in the table, as well as scooping up rice and put them in the plates. After a short while, Izuku took the plates with rice and topped them. Still steaming hot, perfectly cooked curry. Izuku gave Nemuri her plate. Nemuri looked at the dish and immediately drooled upon seeing it. The glistening white rice is colliding with the thick gravy of the curry. Let's eat, uttered Izuku. Gulp. Nemuri swallowed a lump of saliva before digging in. She took a spoonful of rice and curry and shoved it up in her mouth. The soft rice and the fragrant aromatics curry goes well with each other. What's more, Izuku didn't use beef this time but pork instead. As soon as Nemuri bit on the fatty pork, its fattiness and the savory taste of the gravy combined together in one mouthful is just so divine. The vegetables are also packed with flavor and is good for balancing the fattiness of the meat. This is really delectable. It's not overly spicy, just the right balance. It even tastes somewhat sweet. Using pork instead of beef is really the game changer here, praised Nemuri, chowing down on her dinner. Eat slowly, dear. The food's not going anywhere, said Izuku, getting enjoyment in seeing Nemuri satisfied with his cooking. After heartily eating their dinner, the couple sat on the living room cuddling each other to watch some show on TV. Izu? Asked Nemuri hesitantly. What is it, dear? replied Izuku. I don't have work tomorrow. How do you like to go out with me to go have fun tomorrow? Sure, I'd be happy to. It's been quite a while since we went on a date, replied Izuku happily. D-date? That sounds nice to hear, blushed Nemuri, mumbling the last part. Nemuri then got up from the couch. Let's head to sleep then. We have an important day tomorrow. Looks like someone's excited, giggled Izuku, turning off the TV. Nemuri then pulled him to their bedroom as the both of them fell on the bed. Nemuri hugged Izuku with both her arms and legs, covering both their bodies with the blanket. Good night, Izu, said Nemuri, with a bright smile on her face. Good night to you too, dear, replied Izuku, giving her an embrace on the forehead. A date together with Izu tomorrow. I can't wait, mumbled Nemuri happily while snuggling on Izuku's. She's so cute when she excited, thought Izuku as the both of them slept, looking forwards to tomorrow. The next day, although extremely rare, Nemuri managed to wake up before Izuku. Maybe due to the fact that the adrenaline that she's feeling is from her date with Izuku later that day. What a refreshing morning, remarked Nemuri, opening up the curtains of their bedroom even though it's still somewhat dark outside. Seems like someone's excited today, said Izuku, also getting up while yawning. Of course I am, this will be our first date in ages, replied Nemuri, all pumped up. By the way, which time are we going to go? Asked Nemuri, curious. Of course this early morning, we're going to have fun for as long as we can, replied Izuku, doing some stretches. Nemuri lit up as she is now super excited for a long-awaited date with her dear husband after so long. The two got up from bed and went to brush their teeth. After that, Nemuri then pulled Izuku inside the bathroom. Let's take a shower together, darling. Not wanting to spoil the day for his beloved wife, Izuku agreed on Nemuri's antics as the two of them took a shower together. Right after taking their morning shower, the both of them dressed up in their respective attires. Nemuri decided to wear scarlet red dress that showcased her amazing figure coupled with also red sunglasses and black high heels. Izuku settled for a more casual attire of white shirt under an oversized long-sleeve shirt, black briefs and sneakers. It took a while for the two to get ready. Izuku went outside the house first since Nemuri is still fixing herself up. After a short wait, Nemuri finally came out ready for the day. You look really gorgeous with that red dress, dear, complimented Izuku. Thank you, Izu, blushed Nemuri as she slipped her hands in Izuku's arm. They left their house and got on Izuku's car. Izuku then drove the two of them at a cafe to have some coffee and a light meal as it is still 7 in the morning. After they arrived, Izuku got out and opened the door for Nemuri. It's been quite some time since we visited this place, Izuku, said Nemuri, recalling the cafe as a place they went to before. Sure is, it's also a nice time to meet some acquaintances, replied Izuku, holding her hand as the couple went inside. Izuku opened the door and it hit a bell above it. Welcome, sir, ma'am, welcome to staff. The staff in the counter is a familiar girl with bob-cut hair. It's the woman who eliminated the killer who tried to get rid of Izuku. It's been a while, Kyuko, greeted Nemuri, waving her hand. Yes, it has, Mrs. Midoriya, replied Kyuko. The two men who accompanied Kyuko that night are also present. The two rushed towards Izuku and bowed their heads, yelling, "Good day, sir." Bonk. They then got met with a smack in the head by Izuku. Haven't I already told you not to act like that in front of me? Said Izuku in a menacing tone, still keeping his usual smile. We're really sorry, sir, replied the two men loudly in unison and once again got smacked by Izuku. Sigh, these two idiots, sighed Kyuko. It's a good thing that Izuku and Nemuri are the cafe's first customer of the day, so nobody else took notice of these two musclehead stupidity. So, what brings the two of you here today? Asked Kyuko. We're on a date, squealed Nemuri with a visible smile on her face. I see. Well then, what would you two like to eat? Queried Kyuko. We'll have the usual, replied Izuku as he sat beside Nemuri in the counter. Komuramashita, certainly. Kyuko then prepared 2 cups of freshly brewed coffee. Plain black coffee for Izuku, and a latte for Nemuri accompanied by a side of cookies and brownies. After the two got served of their orders, Nemuri took her first sip coffee of the day. Still delicious as always, praised Nemuri, as she also partakes in the cookies. I'm glad you enjoyed your coffee. I will leave you for a while as there are more customers coming in, excused Kyuko. It's fine, just do what you have to do, don't mind us, Kyuko, assured Izuku, which made the bob-haired woman a bit flushed on the cheeks after having her name uttered by Izuku. Thank you, stuttered Kyuko cutely as she left to tend to the other customers. Still a ladies' man, huh? Muttered Nemuri with her eyes squinted at Izuku. Why, you jealous dear? Asked Izuku teasingly. Why would I be jealous? I know I'll always have you, replied Nemuri, grabbing onto Izuku's arm, embracing it. The couple stayed inside the cafe for about an hour and just enjoyed their time inside. Izuku stood up and took out his wallet. Let's go, dear, said Izuku as Nemuri also stood up, getting ready to go. We'll be going first, Kyuko. I really enjoyed the coffee, uttered Nemuri, bidding farewell. It's my pleasure to serve you. Enjoy the rest of your date, replied Kyuko with a smile. With Kyuko's demeanor right now, her merciless figure that night cannot even be distinguished. Izuku then handed out money to Kyuko to pay for their orders. Here's to pay for our coffee. Kyuko kindly took the money and bid the two farewell. With that, Izuku and Nemuri head down to the mall to go shopping. When they arrived, Nemuri's beautiful appearance caught the eyes of unsuspecting men inside the mall. Nemuri just ignored all these ogling men as she just held on to Izuku's arm. Wow, that woman's gorgeous. I envy that dude, how can he get such a beauty? As the men looked at Nemuri with lust, they suddenly felt chills running down their spine, as if telling them that if they don't take their eyes off her, consequences would be dire. At this moment, Izuku was just walking with Nemuri holding on to his arm with a menacing smile on his face, as he is the one sending them shivers. It's not only Nemuri that garnered the admiration from the men. Izuku's innocent and charming look also gathered several women's attention, even married ones, as Izuku is giving off a wonderful husband feel on him. Nemuri noticed this and pouted cutely in jealousy. She then rushed Izuku into the mall's corner where there is little to no people. What's the matter, dear? Asked Izuku. Nemuri just hugged Izuku as she buried her head on his knee, still pouting. I don't like it when women looked at you. I feel like they're going to steal you away from me, mumbled Nemuri. Izuku just smiled and caressed Nemuri's cheeks. He gave her a warm embrace which caught her off guard once again. You don't have to worry about anyone stealing me from you because I'll always stay by your side, said Izuku, which made Nemuri blush even redder. Nemuri didn't get to say a word due to her being extremely flustered, as she just nodded her head like a cute puppy. With the jealousy finally out of the way, Izuku took Nemuri's hand as the two enjoyed their time inside the mall. They went shopping for clothes, play at a nearby arcade, eat ice cream by the park, eat lunch at a local fast food place, go to karaoke to sing their hearts out, and so much more. Izuku and Nemuri had fun in their fruitful date together. They've done many fun things and went to many amazing places, but the day has to end. The two went to the supermarket as their last destination of the day, as it is already late in the afternoon. I'm just going to buy some groceries. Do you want to accompany me, dear? Asked Izuku. Of course, I'm going to be the one picking what we'll be having this evening, grinned Nemuri, excited to pick their dinner. If you say so, giggled Izuku, as he got pulled by Nemuri inside the grocery section. Instead of being seen as a couple strolling inside the market, it's more like a parent watching over a child run around, as that is what they are currently doing. Nemuri runs around picking things up and putting it inside the grocery trolley, while Izuku returns back the ones they won't probably need. Such a lovely bunch, uttered an elderly woman inside the market, watching the both of them. After a while of buying groceries, Izuku went to the counter and lined up for it while Nemuri waltzed back into their car. I'm going to go down first, Izu, said Nemuri, getting a nod from Izuku. Nemuri went down and got into the car first. She was about to go inside the car when she spotted a little girl in ragged clothes hastily run to an empty alleyway in a far distance. This piqued Nemuri's curiosity as to why there's a child outside with no guardian with her at this time of the afternoon. I wonder what that kid is doing? With that, Nemuri followed suit on the little girl's tracks and found her curled up and shivering at a nearby garbage bin in the alleyway. Little girl, are you okay? Asked Nemuri, worried as the white-haired girl had visible wounds and cuts around her body. She also wears ragged and dirty clothes and bandages wrapped around her neck and arms. On one look, Nemuri can see that the girl is malnourished as she's skinny and looks unhealthy. When the girl spotted Nemuri, she quickly ran towards her and hugged her legs. Please help me, don't let him take me," stuttered the girl, trembling in supposed fear. Nemuri crouched down to embrace the trembling girl, taking pity on her. Who in the world can do this inhumane thing to a child? Thought Nemuri in anger. Suddenly, a pale man with shaggy auburn hair appeared in front of them. Nemuri felt the child's trembling goes even harder. "I'm really sorry if my daughter caused you some inconvenience." "Come on, Eri, don't cause any more trouble to the lady," said the man, extending his arm towards them. "No," exclaimed Eri, embracing Nemuri even harder. "Who are you?" asked Nemuri, beginning to be cautious of the man. "I'm the girl's father," replied the man with a smile. "Don't lie to me, the injuries and this child's state tells me otherwise," uttered Nemuri, holding Eri in her arms. "I really don't have time to play around with you. Are you giving me the child back or not?" stated the man with a somewhat angry voice. Nemuri put Eri behind her and went on a combat stance, ready to fight the man anytime. Being in service as a hero for many years, Nemuri can sense if a person is dangerous or not, and the man in front of her stinks of danger. "Sigh, breathing in the same air as inferior creatures like you is such a pain," spoke the man, putting on a plague doctor's mask. "That mask, the 8 precepts of death?" mumbled Nemuri as got ready for combat and protecting the child behind her. The man revealed himself to be none other than the leader of the infamous villain group, the 8 Precepts of Death's Overhaul. Overhaul took off his white hand gloves and touched the ground. Suddenly, Spike emerged from the ground quickly onto Nemuri's location. "This is bad," remarked Nemuri, grabbing Eri to dodge the spikes. Although Nemuri managed to get away from the spiked by taking steps back, she still got injured in her shoulder as one of the spikes got to her. Flinched Nemuri from pain. She tore the underside of her dress to cover up the wound on her shoulder and to stop the bleeding. After she quickly wrapped the wound, Nemuri decided to counterattack. She released sleeping gas from her body to put Overhaul to sleep, but he again touched the ground to make massive hands made of concrete. "That won't work against me," declared Overhaul. Overhaul clapped both giant hands together, making a stream of strong winds that knocked Nemuri's quirk away. Since it is a secluded place and it's already late in the afternoon, nobody noticed the commotion in the alleyway. "This is troublesome, that was my only chance." Nemuri now doesn't have any idea how she can approach Overhaul. Escape is also not an option as she and Eri are currently backed against a wall. "Playtime's over," uttered Overhaul, putting his palm on the side of the wall as it started wriggling. A giant spike of concrete protruded on a wall beside Nemuri at lightning speed as she didn't have time to even move a muscle. Nemuri closed her eyes as the sharp tip of the spike is about to hit her. "Izuku!" As soon as Nemuri thought of her husband's name, Izuku instantly appeared towards her to stop the upcoming spike using the tip of his finger as the spike shattered to pieces upon contact. Nemuri opened her eyes and teared up when she saw Izuku beside her. "Izuku!" exclaimed Nemuri, embracing him, thankful that Izuku came right on time. "So this is where you've been? I've been looking all over for you when I didn't see you in the car," replied Izuku. "I'm sorry. I came here to save this child," apologized Nemuri, showing Izuku the little girl behind her. Izuku immediately lit up when he saw the girl, as one of Izuku's favorites are cute things. "Hee, such a cute girl you are." "Who's the cute girl?" expressed Izuku, crouching down to the little girl's level as he rubbed her cheeks. "Naish Chumichu," replied Eri, while her cheeks are being squished by Izuku. Nemuri face-bombed herself when she saw this. Even in the face of a dangerous enemy, he still has the time to play. "Stop that, Izu," said Nemuri, pulling Izuku from Eri. Due to the force she applied to pull Izuku, Nemuri's shoulder began to sting again. "Ag!" exclaimed Nemuri, holding on to her injured shoulder. Upon seeing this, Izuku's expression changed from being happy and easygoing to a face that basically spells danger. Overhaul, who was watching, got set off and sent spikes again towards them, now coming from the ground and on the walls besides and behind them. "Die!" Izuku stomped his foot on the ground as the spikes coming towards them all got destroyed in an instant. Overhaul got taken aback by this as he took a few steps back. Izuku on the other hand took steps forward, slowly opening his eyes, showing his BLD crimson iris once again, same as he did back in the sludge villain incident. Tell me, give me a reason why I should keep you alive? For Nemuri, Izuku's crimson red eyes may seem like appealing jades that entrance her every time she sees it, but for those who are oppressed by Izuku's intimidating gaze, it's a sign of death itself. Give me one reason to keep you alive? Overhaul felt shivers run down his spine when he saw Izuku's eyes staring directly at him. For the first time in his life, Overhaul felt so powerless that it made him weak on his knees. You're not going to answer me? Uttered Izuku. Izuku held out his arm forward and opened his palm. What's happening to my body? Though Overhaul as his whole body moved by itself as he flew towards Izuku with his neck getting grabbed by him. Izuku pulled Overhaul towards him and gripped his neck tightly, making it strong to breathe for the villain. As he struggled to breathe from Izuku's tight grasp, Overhaul still took this chance to grab Izuku's arm with both his hands for him to activate his quirk. Pulling me to you is your biggest mistake. Now die for your arrogance, screamed Overhaul, activating his quirk. Izuku's arm began to slowly deform, but he seemed unfazed by it. After a short while, Izuku's arm began returning to its normal state, which caused Overhaul to be confused as to why his quirk didn't work. His arm should have already exploded by now. How can this be? Thought Overhaul, still trying to force his quirk on Izuku's arm, but it's useless. You seem to have quite a hefty quirk there. I can also do something similar to that, said Izuku, letting go of Overhaul's neck only to grab both his wrists in the process. What are you doing? Exclaimed Overhaul, trying to release himself from Izuku's tight hold on his wrists, but he won't even budge. Izuku gripped Overhaul's wrists even tighter. After that, both Overhaul's hands got twisted numerous times up to his shoulders. The sound of bones cracking was heard, and it sounds very painful. Aragaga. Overhaul screams from the immense pain he is suffering right now. Nemuri flinched from this as she could only imagine just how painful that experience was from hearing it. She then covered Eri's ears and eyes for her not to witness such a gruesome scene. Overhaul's loud scream had managed to catch the attention of one hero that's currently on patrol, which is the current ranked second hero, Endeavor. Endeavor landed on the scene and saw Izuku seemingly torturing Overhaul. Being an a-hole as he is, Endeavor attacked Izuku without even trying to assess the situation first. Let go of him, you villain. Wait, Endeavor. That's my husband, stated Nemuri, trying to stop Endeavor's attack, but it fell on deaf ears. Endeavor launched himself towards Izuku with amazing speed, using his flames, and struck him with a fire-powered punch. The unconscious Overhaul slipped out of Izuku's grasp as he got hit by Endeavor's attack, but Izuku didn't even got hurt in the slightest as he took Endeavor's punch and still remains unscathed. Izuku got quite set off from this as he sent a powerful kick to the Endeavor's head, plunging his head to the wall. Izuku grabbed the stuck flame hero's head and buried it into the wall again with great force, causing Endeavor's whole face to bleed. That's still not enough as Izuku sent yet another kick at the back of Endeavor's head, plunging his head even deeper into the thick wall of the alleyway. You really shouldn't have done that, said Izuku to the passed-out Endeavor, dusting his clothes of dust using his hands. Izuku went back to check on Nemuri with his facial expression returned back to normal as his eyes were closed again. You really went overboard this time, darling, said Nemuri, crossing her arms. You know I can't keep my cool whenever you're in danger, replied Izuku, ruffling on Nemuri's head, which made her flustered. So, what's going to happen to Overhaul now? Asked Nemuri, composing herself. I'm just going to let the others clean up this mess, replied Izuku. Anyway, what are we going to do about Endeavor? I mean, you did beat the shit out of a hero, explained Nemuri. It's his own fault for attacking a law-abiding citizen, answered Izuku. Izuku then crouched down once again to face Eri. Who is this little girl again? Nemuri then told Izuku about Eri being part of a human trafficking done by the 8 precepts of death and her being abused and tortured. Is that so? That mean, this child don't have anywhere to go now, said Izuku. That's about right. We could drop her off to the hospital first and put her in the orphanage later, suggested Nemuri. Eri then tucked on to Izuku's breathes with her tiny hands. See, can I please go with you, mister? I promise I'll be a good girl. Izuku's face then turned to a face full of bliss hearing Eri's cute stutters. Izuku surprisingly has great compatibility with children as children often gets easily attached to him. Izuku lifts Eri up and carried her on his arms as he turned to face Nemuri. Can we adopt this poor girl? Asked Izuku. Stammered Nemuri, shocked by what Izuku had just asked her. Adopt her? It means Eri will basically be our adopted child, stuttered Nemuri, greatly in her mind imagining having a child with Izuku. A few conversations later, Izuku and Nemuri finally came to a conclusion to adopt Eri and add her to the Midoriya family. This made the little girl very happy as now she gets to have real family who will genuinely love her and she can finally be free from being an experimental subject and live a normal life. With that, the three left the scene and first sent Eri to the hospital to get her treated. A few hours later, Overhaul slowly gained consciousness. As soon as he woke up, he felt his whole body ache from pain due to what Izuku had did to him. Not only that, the moment he opened his eyes he saw he's in their secret base. Around him were the corpses of his subordinates and members of the 8 precepts of death gathered near him. Is this a nightmare? So you've finally woken up, said a man in a black suit in front of Overhaul together with 4 other people also in black suits. Who are you people? Why are you doing this? Exclaimed Overhaul, still in disbelief of what is currently happening. There's no use answering the question of a dead man. Just remember, in your next life be careful of who you provoke, said the man in black suit, intending the words he said as farewell remarks to Overhaul. That night, the 8 precepts of death villain organization had become a history. With the adoption papers all sorted out, Eri is now the new addition to the Midoriya family. At first, it was still awkward for her to adjust to her new life as Eri was always confined in a dark and gloomy place, but with Nemuri and Izuku giving her the warmth of having a family, Eri quickly got accustomed to her new life. 3 weeks later after Eri's adoption, Eri tiptoed to the bedroom and hopped into the bed where Nemuri is currently still sleeping. Mama, Papa told me to wake you up, said Eri, gently swaying Nemuri's shoulders. Nemuri slowly opened her eyes and patted Eri's head. I'm up, Eri dear. After waking up, Nemuri held Eri's hand as the both of them went downstairs to meet Izuku in the kitchen. Good morning, dear. Did you have a good sleep? Asked Izuku while he prepares their breakfast. Good morning, Izu. Yes, I had a good night's sleep, replied Nemuri, giving Izuku a peck on the cheeks. So, what's for breakfast? Wondered Nemuri, taking glances on what Izuku is cooking. Oh, I'm cooking eggs. The bacons are in the oven. When Izuku finished preparing their meal, the 3 sat on the dining table. Izuku gave Nemuri and Eri's portion of their breakfast. Itadakimasu, says Eri, clapping her hands together. Itadakimasu, followed Izuku and Nemuri. Izu? Asked Nemuri out of curiosity. What is it? Why does the bacon looks different than usual? Asked Nemuri, seeing the bacon they are having this time is quite different from what they usually have. I made and cured the bacon this time, dear. Why don't you try and give it a taste? Suggested Izuku. Nemuri took her chopsticks and picked up the bacon. The bacon this time is on the thicker side, which made it juicy looking compared to store-bought crispy bacon. Nemuri immediately felt the softness of the fatty part of the bacon with the chopsticks she is using. Without any more delay, Nemuri took her first bite and boy was it good. Nemuri's whole body twitched upon taking the first bite. It's so sweet and juicy. The bacon is crispy on the outside and completely soft on the inside to the point it can melt in your mouth as it is cooked in the oven and not fried in oil. It has the taste of sweetness and rosemary which made it extremely delightful. Nemuri felt her body is about to melt from the juices gushing out of the bacon with each bite. Eri on the other side of the table also indulged on her food with a delighted look on her face. The bacon you made is seriously so good, dear, complimented Nemuri, having tasted probably the best bacon her whole life. Thank you. I'm glad you like it, answered Izuku. By the way, Eri, are you also enjoying your breakfast? Asked Izuku. Yes, Papa, it's delicious, replied Eri gleefully, with her face smothered with food. Izuku took a table napkin and wiped Eri's face. Be mindful when you eat, Eri. Replied Eri, nodding her head. Nemuri looked at the two with a smile. You're really looking like a bona fide father now, Izu. You also better to act like a real parent now too, my dear, replied Izuku in a teasing manner. I am acting as a dependable parent now, stuttered Nemuri. Nemuri then turned to look at Eri. Eri dear, am I a good mom? Yes, Mama and Papa are the best. So cute, was the only thing Izuku and Nemuri had thought. Working time came and Nemuri is finally ready to head out to school. I'm going, Izuku, bid Nemuri goodbye, giving Izuku a goodbye embrace. Take care dear, answered Izuku. I'm going to work now honey, said Nemuri, crouching down and hugging Eri. See you mama, waved Eri as Nemuri head out of the house. With that, Nemuri went to work, but something seems to be not right. Izuku gazed at the table and saw that Nemuri had seemingly forgotten to take her packed lunch with her. This is quite a predicament, said Izuku, pulling on his imaginary beard. What's wrong, Papa? Asked Eri, lightly pulling on Izuku's breathes. Eri, Mama seems to have forgot to take her lunch with her. Do you want to go and give it to her in school? Asked Izuku, lifting Eri up. I want to go. I don't want Mama to be hungry, replied Eri in a worried voice. Good, let's tidy up the house before we leave then. Izuku then began cleaning up the whole house with Eri helping him with the minor chores. After that, Izuku got Eri take a nice bath and dressed her in nice comfy clothes he had bought from the children clothing store. The two then went to U.S.J with Nemuri's packed lunch with them. When they arrived, Eri insisted that she hold the lunchbox, so Izuku let her. As they were approaching the building, they caught the attention of many students. Who is that man? He's so handsome. Yeah, he's also cute with that apron. Do you think that adorable little girl is his daughter? Maybe he has a wife who's a teacher in this school. So he's already taken? I would really want to take my shot with an older guy like him, sleepy face. Begone he. After walking for a while, the two finally arrived at the staff's office and luckily, Midnight was inside, who is also wondering if she brought her lunch or not. When she glanced at the door, she noticed Izuku and Eri standing there. Izuku, what are you doing here with Eri? Wondered Midnight as she walked towards them. Midnight got a karate chop on the head from Izuku. Ow, that hurt. We came to bring you your lunch, said Izuku, pointing at Eri who was holding her lunchbox. Aw, did you really bring me my lunch all the way here, honey? Cooed Midnight. Yes, Mama, so that you won't get hungry, replied Eri, handing Midnight her lunch. The rest of the staff members just feasted their eyes on Eri's cuteness. Then Eraserhead and Present Mike walked by the door to go inside. Yo, Aizawa, Hisashi greeted Izuku in a friendly manner. Still as carefree as ever, I see, answered Aizawa, tiredly. How you doing, Izuku? Here to visit Nemuri? Added Hisashi. Yeah, I came with Eri to bring my wife's lunch. Nemuri took Eri to her station as she shared her lunch with her while Izuku conversed with Aizawa and Hisashi, as it has been quite a while since Izuku came to visit. After a while of conversation, Izuku decided to give Nizu a visit. Nemuri dear, I'm going to visit Nizu for a while, said Izuku. Okay darling, I'll watch over Eri here, replied Nemuri as she and Eri went back to eating. Izuku walked on the corridors of the school and somehow ended up in the cafeteria. Where was Nizu's office again? Wondered Izuku, scratching his head. Izuku then spotted Lunch Rush and waved at him. Lunch Rush, busy during lunch hours as always. Lunch Rush gave Izuku a thumbs up as a response to Izuku. Even as a cook hero, Lunch Rush sometimes goes to Izuku for advice on cooking and take knowledge from it. That's the relationship the two had. Izuku once again went back on his tracks to meet Nizu. After a short while of walking, Izuku finally arrived. Nizu-kun, I came to visit, said Izuku, opening the door on Nizu's office. Oh, Izuku. What brings you here? Wondered Nizu. Just came for a visit with old friends, replied Izuku, taking a seat at the vacant couch. Seems you have already adjusted to normal life now here. That's fortunate, answered Nizu, seeing that Izuku is now living a normal life as a house husband. A certain skinny man with blonde hair is also present inside the office. You're here too, Toshinori, still not retiring? Said Izuku. I will retire once I found my successor, replied Toshinori with a somewhat serious expression. If you're looking for a successor, Why not pick that brat that you saved from that sludge villain? Suggested Izuku. Do you think that kid's capable of winding OFA? Questioned Toshinori. That brat might be rough on the edges, but with a little sharpening he's going to be a viable candidate for OFA, explained Izuku. Why don't you try that kid? Izuku mentioned Toshinori. Since Izuku recommended that kid, he must be worth the shot, added Nizu, handing Izuku a cup of fresh-made tea. If you really highly suggest that kid, maybe I'll test him out, concluded Toshinori. The three then talked about things to catch up on each other's lives. I can't believe you really got married, and with Nemuri at that, talked Nizu. Flashback. How Izuku and Nemuri met was actually kind of funny. It all happened 3 years ago when Nemuri is doing her job as a hero. Back then, there is a robbery in a mall within Masudafu City which were done by villains with dangerous quirks. Nemuri and the other heroes pursued the villains inside the building and to protect the civilians as well. Izuku was just carefreely about to eat his bought ice cream in a cone despite all the commotion. This caused him to be eyed by a villain that Nemuri is currently chasing to take Izuku as a hostage. The villain got to Izuku and pointed a sharp bone that protruded from the villain's palm and aimed it at Izuku's neck. Step back, you shitty hero. One more step and this guy dies, warned the villain, pushing the tip of his sharp bone on Izuku's neck to make it bleed a little as a warning to Nemuri, but the sharpened tip of the bone can't seem to even pierce Izuku's skin, which made the villain uneasy. This caused Nemuri to halt on her tracks because the villain has held a hostage and Nemuri didn't want to make any casualties by acting rashly. Nemuri then had an idea. She slowly walked towards the villain and sneakily ripped her costume for her to use her quirk. When Nemuri found the opportunity when the villain had loosened its guard, she released Somnambulist at the villain to knock him out. This approach worked as the villain immediately went unconscious upon taking a whiff of the sleeping gas. Although it's successful, it was strange to Nemuri though, as Izuku still stood there seemingly unaffected by her quirk. Izuku sneezed upon breathing in the purple gas, which caused the ice cream to slip on top of the cone he's holding and drop to the ground. I haven't even got to tasting yet. The cute frown from Izuku's face when the ice cream fell was a trigger to Nemuri. The moment she saw that, it was love at first sight. Nemuri's body unconsciously walked towards Izuku and held both his hands together. I love you. Will you marry me? Proposed Nemuri boldly. Okay. Flashback end. Well, that sure was an unprecedented encounter, reminisced Izuku. Suddenly, the door opened, revealing a middle-aged appealing woman probably in her early 30s wearing a nurse's clothing as her hero costume. I heard that Izuku came, it seems it's true, stated Recovery Girl as she saw Izuku casually chatting with Nizu and Toshinori. How have you been, Chio? Good to see you doing well, greeted Izuku. The devil teacher is back. Every time I see you, my head hurts, said Recovery Girl, pinching the bridge of her nose. A few years back, Izuku was especially requested by Nizu to temporarily teach at U.S.J for a month as there had been a shortage of staff. Izuku, considering himself as a good friend, accepted Nizu's abrupt request. It was supposed to be a good thing since he and Nemuri can see each other for much longer time and get to work together in school. It wasn't the case for the students though, as it was a complete nightmare for them. Izuku was given the heroic subject, and that was probably the worst subject Nizu could have assigned him, as Izuku's class is a walking abomination. There wasn't a day where Recovery Girl's office wasn't empty, as there's always students admitted every time Izuku's class is held. At that time, Recovery Girl lost count of the students she had tended to at that span of time. The class is just beyond the students' capabilities, as the hero training is just so difficult. Those who can't handle Izuku's hero training or those students who picked a fight with him were either sent to the infirmary or got covered in bandages, but those who overcame Izuku's class got a major power-up in their overall skills and abilities. Even in just a month's time, Izuku made a name for himself in school, innocent-faced devil. Kia, that sure brings back memories. Thank you for making me remember those wonderful times, said Izuku, remembering the days he taught at U.S.J. Wonderful times, but those days were my worst days in working here in U.S.J, complained Recovery Girl, pinching Izuku's cheeks. How can you flirt with me, Chio? You know I'm already married, uttered Izuku, which got him a smack on the head by Recovery Girl. Who's flirting with you? You happy-go-lucky BSTRD. Recovery girl, calm down and let's leave them for now, said Toshinori, pulling Recovery girl, who is now breathing fire from her mouth from agitation, out of the room. It seems Chio still hasn't forgotten those days you flood her office with patients, said Nizu. I'll make it up to her, replied Izuku, awkwardly laughing. Nizu and Izuku talked for a little while more. After that, Izuku finally decided to head home. I'll see you around, Nizu, said Izuku, walking towards the door. Yes, see you soon, Izuku, replied Nizu. With that, Izuku went back to the staff's office to pick Eri up. Eri, I'm back. Papa, exclaimed Eri, excited as she ran towards Izuku to embrace him. You're back, darling, said Nemuri. Yes, we'll be going back home first, dear, stated Izuku, giving Nemuri an embrace on the forehead. Izuku and Eri went back first after saying goodbye to Nemuri. Izuku then headed to the supermarket to buy some necessities together with Eri before going back home. I love you, Nemuri, go out with me, said a man's voice outside of Nemuri's house carrying a bouquet of flowers in the middle of the night. Nemuri angrily opened the door and yelled at the man outside. Get out of here, you idiot! The man confessing outside is none other than Kigo Takami, or professionally known in his hero name as Hawks. My love for you is real, please consider my affection for you, insisted Hawks. I'm already married, you dimwit. Nobody wants your affection, yelled Nemuri in frustration. This isn't the first time Hawks had been doing this. Hawks had feelings for Nemuri way back, but Nemuri always ignored him. Even now that Nemuri had been married to Izuku, Hawks still didn't stop his idiocy. While chopping ingredients for the dinner he is going to cook, Izuku heard the noises Hawks had been making. What's wrong, dear? Asked Izuku, coming towards Nemuri. Kigo is here again. I'm going to take a bath. I don't have the energy to entertain that idiot, complained Nemuri as she got inside and into the bathroom. Hey you! Bring Nemuri back out this instant, cussed Hawks at Izuku, pointing fingers at him. A kitchen knife then suddenly flew across the side of Hawks' face and the tip got embedded on a wall behind him. This caught Hawks completely off guard as he didn't even get to flinch. I think I'm craving for some roasted chicken for dinner, said Izuku, giving Hawks his usual smile. 'Cause Kigo looked like a chicken to Izuku. Hawks got startled by it and fell on his butt. This made him run away with his tail behind his legs. I'm going to get back at you for this. My chicken got away, said Izuku, taking out the knife in the wall. With Kigo out of the picture, Izuku went back inside to continue cooking. As Izuku was preparing food, Eri tucked on his breathes, aiming to get his pension. Papa, uttered. What is it, sweetie? Asked Izuku. Eri then showed Izuku a piece of paper with drawings on it using crayons. There, Eri draw Izuku, Nemuri and her in the middle holding hands and smiling happily. I tried drawing Papa, Mama and me. Era, what a wonderful drawing, complimented Izuku, giving Eri as gentle head pat. Upon hearing this, Eri's face lit up as Izuku liked what she drew. Really? It's appealing, you can show it to Mama later too. I'm sure she will love it, replied Izuku, giving Eri an embrace on the forehead. Nodded Eri. Just as Izuku told her, Eri showed what she drew to Nemuri after she took a bath. Just as expected, Nemuri loved the drawing Eri made and hugged her tightly. You're so sweet, honey, said Nemuri, giving Eri lots of embraces. That tickles Mama, giggled Eri. After a short while wait, dinner is finally served. What's for dinner, Izuku? Asked Nemuri. Yes, I'm excited for dinner, added Eri. Izuku then presented them hot miso soup in a bowl and hamburg steak with rice as the main dish. Hey, hamburg steak. Thank you, Papa, squealed Eri. Dig in, honey, said Izuku. The reason Izuku decided to make hamburg steak today is because Eri said she wants to eat it for dinner, so Izuku granted her little request. The three ate happily and Eri made sure to eat her fill since she's awaiting this dinner so bad. Nemuri held the bowl of miso soup and gave it a sip. The umami and deep taste of the broth immediately calms both Nemuri's body and mind. Ah, this is so soothing, thought Nemuri, closing her eyes. After taking a sip of the wonderful miso soup, Nemuri then eyed the juicy-looking hamburg steak in front of her. The dark glaze on top of the steak only made it look even more appetizing. Using a spoon, she scooped out a spoonful of the hamburg steak with a bit of rice. The juiciness of the steak immediately lingers on her mouth as the sweet and savory glaze helped complement the flavor even more. Even though Nemuri isn't really a fan of Hamburg steak as it's more like a kid's treat, but the steak Izuku made is definitely up on her tastes that she can't get over how good it is. The two girls enjoyed their dinner with obvious joy on their faces. Izuku was just smiles when he saw the two enjoying the meal he made with all his heart. No foodgasm this time, winking face with tongue. After the three ate their dinner, Izuku tidied up the dishes as Eri went to sleep first early as she will be going to school for the first time tomorrow. When Izuku finished up washing the dishes, he went to the fridge and grabbed some can of beers and walked towards Nemuri, who is currently watching TV while sitting on the couch. Izuku sneakily held the cold can of beer up her cheeks, which made Nemuri flinch from surprise. "Eek? Did I scare you, dear?" muttered Izuku, clearly amused from Nemuri's reaction. Nemuri then got confused when she saw Izuku holding cans of cold beer. "Let's enjoy ourselves tonight since you worked strong these past few days," smiled Izuku. This made Nemuri's eyes lit up as she was really craving for some alcohol action. "You're the best, Izu," exclaimed Nemuri in glee. Izuku then sat beside Nemuri on the couch and opened the can. Nemuri also did the same. The sound of fizzing when opening the cap music in Nemuri's ear. Moreover, having Izuku accompany her in drinking is such a rare occurrence, so she can't miss such opportunity. The two then drank to their heart's content, with Nemuri snuggling on Izuku while they watch night shows on TV together. "I'm so happy I married you, Ize." "Me too, I'm lucky to be a husband of such a wonderful woman." And just like that, 10 months have passed and today is also the day of UA's entrance exam. "I'm going to go now, dear. I'm getting late for the examinations," said Midnight, saying farewell to Izuku as she quickly headed for the door. "Aren't you going to have breakfast at least?" asked Izuku. "I'm sorry but I can't, but I brought the packed lunch you made me," replied Midnight, showing Izuku the bento he packed for his wife's lunch. "Let's go together then." "I'm also going to take Eri to her school," suggested Izuku. With that, the family of three left the house, with Midnight going to UA while Izuku bringing their daughter to her school. The entrance exam went on the same as the canon, with the same students who passed, and Izuku will be replaced by a mystery student. It was also Bakugo who saved Ochako from the zero-pointer robot instead of Izuku in the canon. "I'm home," said Midnight as she opened the door of their house. She was then happily greeted and embraced by Eri's tiny arms and hands. "Mama, you're back," exclaimed Eri happily. "How did you do in school today, Buttercup?" asked Midnight as she carried Eri into her arms. "I did good," replied Eri, showing Midnight the star at the back of her palm. "Very good," replied Midnight, playfully pinching Eri's nose, in which the little girl giggled. "Welcome home, dear," said Izuku, walking towards Nemuri and gave her a peck on the forehead. Replied Nemuri, grinning. The family happily ate a wonderful dinner together at the table. "So, how was your work today?" asked Izuku, combing Nemuri's hair on the couch as she just got back from taking a bath. Eri also went to sleep first as she will go to school again first thing tomorrow morning again. "We evaluated some good children today, and that kid Bakugo sure got strong," replied Nemuri, reminiscing of what happened earlier as of how Bakugo obliterated the giant zero-pointer robot to save Ochako. "Well, that kid did inherit Toshinori's quirk," answered Izuku. "That brat did. How can All Might give his quirk to that Pomeranian?" growled Nemuri as bad memories emerged. When Bakugo first met Nemuri, he kept calling her names such as TTY monster, old hag, leech, exich and so on. Bakugo was really against Izuku marrying her before. Now calm down, dear. Maybe that boy changed, he is trained by Toshinori after all," calmed Izuku. "You're right. Sigh, I'm so tired," said Nemuri as she leaned on Izuku's. "Let's go to bed then," said Izuku, lifting Nemuri up Princess Carrie. This caused her to be flustered and embarrassed. What are you doing, dear?" stuttered Nemuri. "Don't worry, you're light as a feather," responded Izuku, indicating Nemuri to just take it easy. When they got to their room, Izuku gently put Nemuri on the bed and walked towards the door once again. "Where are you going, Izu?" asked Nemuri. "I'm going to the kitchen. I'll be back," replied Izuku, giving Nemuri a gentle smile. After a few minutes, Izuku came back carrying a round tray on the top of his palm. "What did you make?" wondered Nemuri. I made this to help you sleep comfortably since I know you're tired, dear, answered Izuku, showing Nemuri what he made. Izuku made a warm milk with marshmallows on top. I prepared you some warm milk to help in your sleep. Nemuri teared up a bit knowing Izuku greatly cares about her. Izu called Nemuri as she embraced Izuku lovingly. Now, have a drink, dear, said Izuku as he handed the cup to Nemuri. Nemuri took a whiff of the warm milk and immediately smelled something. This piqued her interest as she took a sip. As soon as Nemuri tasted it, her eyes widened in delight. This proved her assumptions to be correct. Izu, did you perhaps? Yes, I put a hint of vanilla in there to make the milk even smoother to drink, replied Izuku. This is so good, and I'm feeling drowsy already. Nemuri then drank the rest of the milk as Izuku retoured the cup. Back to the kitchen. When he returned, he saw Nemuri already asleep soundly. Izuku just smiled as he arranged Nemuri properly to the bed and laid the blanket over her body. Good night, dear. Have a good night's rest, whispered Izuku, giving Nemuri an embrace on the forehead once again as he switched off the lamp. Another day came by and once again, it's time for Izuku's groceries to commence. Guess it's time for groceries, said Izuku, stretching his body as he just finished cleaning the house. With Eri in her school and Nemuri doing her work in U, Izuku was then again left alone by himself to tend to the house. Ah, I'm such a wonderful husband, said Izuku, flattering himself as he talked to no one. Izuku then picked up his keys to his car and got ready to go shopping, but then again a thought came to his mind. It's such a pleasant day, might as well enjoy a good walk. Izuku left the keys as he went to the supermarket walking towards there. Walking on a good day like this isn't bad once in a while, said Izuku to himself as he looked up to see a wonderful cloudy weather with cool breezes of wind trickling his cheeks. When Izuku arrived at the supermarket, he immediately thinks of what he would prepare this evening. Now, what should I cook later? I think I'll go with beef this time, said Izuku, looking through a variety of meats on the meat section of the market. Oh, Mr. Midoriya, over here, called out one employee, which caught Izuku's attention. Izuku then walked towards the one that called him. Good day, Aji-san, greeted Izuku. The one who called out to Izuku is a fairly old man who is working at the supermarket specializing in meats and also one of Izuku's acquaintances. Doing groceries, I see. So, what do you have in mind today? Asked the old man. Yes, I'm thinking of having beef this evening. Do you have any recommendations, Aji-san? Replies Izuku. Well, if you're up for it, we have Wagyu beef that just came in today. And let me tell you, it's A5, said the old man, showcasing the cut of beef to Izuku. Wagyu, huh? Thinks Izuku, playing with his imaginary beard. Since it's only once in a while, why not let those two have a fancy dinner today? Thought Izuku, thinking of treating his family with great quality beef for tonight's meal. With that in mind, Izuku bought the beef even though it's quite on the higher price range. Well, it's going to be a money well spent when I prepare this later. After Izuku went and bought other necessary groceries, he went and treated himself to an ice-cold delicious ice cream. This taste of mint, just how I like it, said Izuku as he went for a bite of his mint-flavored ice cream. After eating, it's now time to head back home. As Izuku was walking home, he happened to accidentally bump into a person in a hooded jacket in an empty street. Oh, I'm sorry, boy. I didn't intend to bump into you, apologized Izuku, smiling. Hey, watch where you're going, old man, growled the guy as he stared at Izuku dead in the eye. Old man? But I consider myself fairly young though, thought Izuku, scratching his head. Author, Izuku's age is still unknown. I'll leave that to your imagination. Izuku then went and looked back at the kid who bumped into him. It was none other than Tamura Shigaraki. Izuku immediately noticed the kid's white hair, bloodshot eyes and very dry lips to the point it looks like it shrunk. Could this child be malnourished? Izuku is making this kind of face. Look, old man. I'm pretty effing set off right now and you just had to ruin my day even more, cussed Shigaraki. My rebellious stage now, are we? That's cute, replied Izuku. Shigaraki then pulled on Izuku's arm, which caused Izuku to drop the groceries he's carrying. Could you die for me? Asked Shigaraki as he tightly gripped Izuku's arm. What could you possibly mean by the dash? Wondered Izuku, but cut short on his question when he felt his arm slowly decay when Shigaraki held it with all his 5 fingers. My arm is being decayed, such a fascinating quirk I see, thought Izuku, who is still calm even with all this happening to him. Why do you still have that stupid face even though you're about to die? Growled Shigaraki in frustration. I don't think I've done something bad to you for you to take my life though. And besides, isn't using quirk prohibited if you don't have permission? Replied Izuku. This only made Shigaraki even frustrated and mad. Maybe I'll kill your loved ones next after you to take that stupid look on your face, yelled Shigaraki. Upon hearing this, the air around Izuku suddenly changed. It felt heavy for Shigaraki. What's happening? Stuttered Shigaraki as it finds it strong to breath. Izuku then moved his decaying hand, used it to grip Shigaraki's arm as well. Izuku's shrunken hand quickly went back to normal as it tightly gripped Shigaraki's arm to the point it won't even budge. Say it again, said Izuku, talking straight to Shigaraki now with both his eyes open, showing his crimson red eyes and looking menacingly towards the white-haired kid. What? Cat got your tongue? With Shigaraki not responding, Izuku gripped Shigaraki's arm with so much force, he crushed it. This made Shigaraki release a cry of agony from pain he just experienced. Without any further notice, Izuku grabbed Shigaraki by the neck and slammed him on a nearby wall, slowly lifting him up while strangling him in the process. Izuku then once again looked at Shigaraki with a now horrifying look on his eyes that made Shigaraki shiver in extreme fear and oppression that he is now on a verge of crying. Say that to my face again? I dare you. I dare you say that in front of my face again. This is the very first time Shigaraki felt what true fear is. This kind of oppression is something he never felt before, not even to his all-powerful emissary All for One. The one in front of Shigaraki is not supposed to be considered human at all. It's like the Grim Reaper has come for him. I am sorry, these are the words that unexpectedly came out of Shigaraki's mouth with tears now flowing from his eyes. Never had he expected that these pitiful words would be uttered by him just to beg for his life. Oh my, what have I done? Said Izuku, letting go of Shigaraki as he slumped to the ground with bubbles forming on his mouth, passed out. The menacing aura around Izuku immediately disappeared and he returned to his usual self like nothing ever happened. I've done it again, I really need to control my temper, said Izuku to himself, resting his cheek on his palm. After a short while, Shigaraki slowly gained consciousness and the first thing he saw is Izuku's face. Thank goodness you're still alive, it's going to be troubling if you didn't wake up, said Izuku in delight, clapping both his hands. Fear once again swallowed Shigaraki whole. Without Shigaraki noticing, his body moved on its own and ran away as fast as he can. I need to get away from that monster, screamed Shigaraki on his mind with his face pale as sheet. Am I that scary? Wondered Izuku as he just let Shigaraki get away. With that, Izuku hurried back home to prepare a meal they are going to eat this dinner. Before Izuku begins cooking, he needs to fetch Eri from school since it's already about time her school finishes. It's already 4, huh? Might as well check on Eri, said Izuku as he drove to his little girl's school. Papa, exclaimed Eri as she ran towards Izuku that's waiting for her outside of her school. Did you have fun, dear? Asked Izuku as he picked up Eri. Yeah. Made even more friends, and Shin is also very nice to me, replied Eri smiling. Shin. These words immediately came repeating inside of Izuku's head as soon as he heard it from Eri. Eri dear, do you get along with this Shin well? Asked Izuku. Yes, I like him a lot, smiled Eri as a radiant light emanated from her. Maximum damage. Izuku felt that his heart just crumbled. Maybe I'll meet this Shin boy you're talking about sooner or later, smiled Izuku as he put Eri inside the car. With that, the two of them went home. At the kitchen. With Izuku finished tending on Eri, he can finally start cooking. How should I cook this beef? Izuku then figured out how he should cook this delicacy. He reached out for a pan and threw it in the stove in medium heat. While the pan is heating, Izuku chopped some garlic. Izuku then sliced a moderate portion of beef and cut it in bite-sized pieces. After that, Izuku oiled the pan and sautéed the garlic. He then slaps in the beef slices and seasoned it with salt and pepper as he sears the beef. As soon as the beef cooks, Izuku puts in leftover rice to the pan. He then seasoned it with soy sauce, pepper, oyster sauce. After that, he mixed the ingredients together. To add a bit of nutritive value, Izuku added some diced carrots and peas to the mix. When it's about to finish cooking, Izuku then puts in chopped scallions for aroma and added pleasing look. Now, the steak fried rice is finally finished. Izuku then refrigerated the spare beef as it's planned to be prepared tomorrow. As Izuku prepares the dinner table, Eri came walking in as she got led by the smell. "It smells good, Papa," said Eri as she took the amazing whiff of the dish Izuku cooked. "Are you hungry, dear?" "Let's just wait for Mama and eat together, okay?" replied Izuku. "Okay." Seconds after that, the door opened revealing Midnight. "I'm home," said Midnight in a somewhat tired tone as she's finally got laid out of work. "Mama," exclaimed Eri as she jumped on Nemuri. "Eri, how was your day?" asked Nemuri, giving Eri embraces. "It was great," replied Eri, giggling. Eri then ran to the kitchen and washed her hands to get ready for dinner. "Welcome home, dear," welcomed Izuku as she gave Nemuri a quick peck. Do you want to have dinner first, or take a bath or wada?" Izuku's monologue was then interrupted when Eri called out to them. Of course, this caused Nemuri to let out a single tear on her eye as she was looking forward to what Izuku would say. "Eri, loudly crying face, Papa, Mama, let's eat, I'm hungry." "Coming, dear," replied Izuku as both of them went to the table as well to eat dinner. Eri dug in first, and as soon as she had her first bite, her eyes sparkled with delight. "It's so delicious," mumbled Eri as she bit into the tender wagyu beef. Nemuri also took a bite as she was curious of what made Eri make that reaction. As to her surprise, she also made the same reaction. "Izu, is this?" "Yes, it's wagyu," replied Izuku. "But it's expensive," said Nemuri. "Don't worry, it's my treat as it's only once in a while and the main course is tomorrow's breakfast," winked Izuku. This made Nemuri smile as she considers herself extremely lucky to have such a man as a husband. That night, the family had a wonderful dinner as they talked about their day around the table. "Midnight, protect the kids at all cost," yelled Aizawa, who is already in a pretty bad shape alongside 13. "Izuku," thought Midnight, trying her best to keep the students safe. Moments earlier, "Aizu, I'm going to work now," said Midnight. Izuku then gave her a goodbye embrace. "See you later, dear." With that, Midnight went to work as a brand new day emerged. Eri also was already sent to her school. While Izuku was vacuuming the floor, a sudden phone call caught his attention. "Hello, Midoriya residence," greeted Izuku as he picked up the call. "Good day, Mr. Midoriya. Sorry for interrupting you like this," answered the voice on the other end of the line. "Oh, Nizun, what brings you to call me?" responded Izuku. "Apparently, according to our intel, the League of Villains are already starting to make their move. I know this trivial matter does not concern you, but we are really in need of your help in case they plan on attacking, and also since All Might is already not in his best shape," reported Nizu. "It's true, the future symbol of hope is still far from grasping the true power of one for all," replied Izuku, thinking of Bakugo. "If it's not a bother for you, can you come to my office so that we can discuss this further?" requested Nizu. "Since I really don't have anything to do today, why not? I'll be there in a jiffy." Izuku then drove to UA, and when he arrived, there seemed to be a commotion happening. Izuku quickly went to Nizu's office. "Nizu, what happened here?" asked Izuku. "Izuku, it seems that the LOV have already made their move," replied Nizu while having a troubled expression. "Why, did something occur?" asked Izuku curiously. "They attacked U.S.J, answered Ida, who is also inside the office while breathing heavily. All Might and the other available heroes went there as fast as they can when this kid arrived to report the tragedy," added Nizu, pointing at Ida. "That seems extremely bad, but I think All Might can sort this out himself," said Izuku. Nizu then made a more troubled expression than he already has and signaled Izuku to lend his ear. "Actually, according to Ida's report, this might be much more troublesome than we anticipated, and All Might has already pretty much used up all his time today. Moreover, Midnight is also there and they're barely hanging on," whispered Nizu. The atmosphere around Izuku suddenly changed. Calling it a dreadful feeling is spot on as Nizu and Ida are feeling terrified just by being near Izuku. "I'm going there now," said Izuku as he walked out of the office. "Midoriya, wait," said Nizu. Izuku then gave Nizu a piercing look as he showed his crimson eyes once again. This startled Nizu as he flinched. "What is it?" asked Izuku. "Jay, just make sure you don't destroy the whole area," stuttered Nizu. "I'll try," replied Izuku as he just seemingly vanished from his spot, leaving only burnt marks in the floor. Nizu then slumped down on his butt and sighed in relief. "Who was that man, Mr. Principal?" stammered Ida as he finally got to breath properly from the pressure Izuku was exuding earlier. "It'll be best for you to not dwell on the person's identity. It's for your own good," replied Nizu as he reached out for his cup of tea with his still trembling hand. "Can that person save them?" wondered Ida. "At times like this, you should at least hope that the villains there can come out in one piece at the very least." All Might is already out of gas and on his wits' end already, but still dragged himself to exchange blows with the all-powerful Nomu. Their blows caused torrent of winds that spreads violently across U.S.J. The students were somehow once again filled with hope that they can get out of this predicament. But that hope shattered when All Might had fallen down. Their last hope was gone as they fell into despair once again. "Finish him, Nomu," yelled Shigaraki, releasing his frustration on that day when he got met with a crushing defeat at the hands of Izuku. In fact, it wasn't even worthy to be called a defeat as Shigaraki got embarrassingly pummeled until his light wore out. Just when the Nomu was about to finish All Might, Bakugo came rushing in to protect All Might. "Bakugo! What are you doing? Get back here!" shouted Midnight. "Shut up. I'm going to destroy this black BSD even if it's the last thing I'll do," yelled Bakugo, clenching his fists and is ready for a battle even when his legs are shaking. "Since you have a death wish, let me grant you that." "Noma, destroy that brat first," exclaimed Shigaraki as he ordered the Nomu to kill Bakugo. The Nomu then hurled its gigantic fists towards Bakugo, who is seemingly powerless in front of it. To intimidation coupled with fear, Bakugo closed his eyes and prepared himself for the worst. When an opponent attacks you, keep your eyes wide open. Didn't I teach you that? This voice, it can't be? Thought Bakugo as he slowly opened his eyes and saw Izuku in front of him stopping the Nomu's attack with his palm. "Oniaten!" exclaimed Bakugo as he fell on his butt. "Izuku!" cried Midnight at a distance. Izuku then gave a gentle smile at Midnight and said, "It's going to be all right." Shigaraki, who witnessed this, trembled in extreme fear as he instinctively took a few steps back. Izuku then glared at him with his soul-piercing gaze and questioned Shigaraki in a menacing tone. "Are you the ones responsible for this?" Shigaraki had cold sweats coming down from his face as he feels suffocated from Izuku's gaze. "Why is that monster here?" stuttered Shigaraki in a trembling manner. "Katsuki-chan, join the rest of your classmates there as I will take care of the rest," instructed Izuku to Bakugo. But Izuku just smiled at Bakugo and added, My, are you rebelling against me now?" "Eek!" exclaimed Bakugo as he ran towards the rest of his classmates. Izuku took notice of the surroundings. The situation is indeed quite bad. The students are terrified. Both Aizawa and 13 are down with severe injuries, and All Might also got defeated. The Nomu then got enraged as it shrugged Izuku's hand off and took a few distance away from Izuku. "That man seems to be strange. To be that calm even in this kind of situation," said Kurojairi, observing the situation. "That person is dangerous." "A cheat," growled Shigaraki, biting his fingernails. "But he's still no match for the Nomu that can even defeat All Might." "Noma, kill that guy," ordered Shigaraki. The Nomu charged towards Izuku at an insane speed, intending of battering him. "This is really getting annoying," said Izuku as he leaped from the ground and bashed the Nomu's head to the ground, squashing it against the floor. The students cheered from what they witnessed, but all that cheering came to a sudden halt when a headless Nomu got up from the ground with its head regenerating itself. "It's going to take more than that to kill Nomu," screamed Shigaraki. "This man is indeed dangerous. To think he can crush the Nomu's head easily when All Might can barely scratch it," analyzed Kurojairi. Izuku looked at the Nomu with a scowl stamped on his face. "You're really getting on my nerves now." Izuku clenched his fist and withdrawn it back, preparing for a solid hit. The vein on his hand and arms bulged as fiery scale-like patterns formed from it. The scales formed up to his neck as well as the side of his face and single horn protruding from his forehead revealing a dragon-like appearance coupled with his BLD crimson eyes. "This is bad, all of you hide behind the bus and protect yourselves," instructed Midnight hurriedly as she gathered the injured heroes and the students behind the bus to take cover. "Who is that person, Midnight-sensei?" asked Ochako. "He's my husband," replied Midnight. "What?" exclaimed the students except Bakugo, who already knew. With this, a partial reveal of Izuku's quirk, Calamity, finally came to show itself. Izuku hurled a powerful punch towards the Nomuzi. The impact of the punch was so destructive, the whole area shook as if an earthquake happened. The Nomu's body got obliterated out of existence as a pair of its legs remained, but those remains also began to crumble away. The villains were in disbelief of what they saw. They just witnessed their trump card to defeating All Might got ended that easily. This is impossible. How can this happen? Trembled Shigaraki, knowing that their invasion came to a failure. Izuku reverted back his form and threw a pebble at All Might's forehead. "Ow! How long are you going to lie down there?" "If Nana Shimura saw this, she'd be very upset to see the state you're in right now," said Izuku. "I'm still human, you know, unlike you," replied All Might as he slowly got up. Izuku then stomped on All Might's foot and pinched his ear. "So you're saying I'm not human then?" smiled Izuku. "Oh, how could a monstrous person like you still be called a human?" replied All Might as his feet got stomped strong again. "We need to get out of here," said Kurojairi as he instructed Shigaraki that they must flee as soon as possible as the odds are against their favor with the Nomo utterly defeated. "Hey you! What's your relationship with Nana?" yelled Shigaraki as he overheard their conversation. Shigaraki then got pulled to Izuku by a strange force as Izuku strangled his neck. "Shigaraki!" exclaimed Kurojairi. "Tell me, how did you know her?" questioned Izuku, tightening his grip of Shigaraki. "He's Nana's grandchild," answered All Might in a low voice. "What? This boy is her grandkid," said Izuku as he let go of Shigaraki. Cough cough, Shigaraki finally regained his breathing. How do you know Nana, you diamond BSTRD? Stammered Shigaraki. "Well, how should I put this?" replied Izuku, thinking of what to say. "He's an acquaintance of your grandmother back in the past," answered All Might in Izuku's stead. The truth is Izuku was once Nana's lover. Just when Shigaraki was about to say anything, a portal opened besides him and Kurojairi pulled him in, cutting their conversation off. With that, both Kurojairi and Shigaraki managed to escape, but the rest of the villains present didn't meet the same fate as they all got captured when the rest of the heroes arrived. With the capture of the villains and the safeguard of the students, the villain invasion was prevented with little to no major casualties. The students as well as the teachers involved with the invasion were pardoned to go home and rest, as this is such an unexpected predicament. At the Midoriya household, Izuku slowly laid Nemuri on their bed after she washed up and Izuku tended to her wounds. It's fortunate that Nemuri just sustained minor injuries. "You go and have a nice rest, dear. I'm sure you're exhausted," said Izuku, laying a blanket on top of Nemuri. Izuku was about to let Nemuri rest when she grabbed his hand. "Aizu, can you stay with me until I fall asleep?" asked Nemuri. Izuku held her hand as he laid on the bed besides Nemuri as well. "I'm going to be with you until you fall asleep," answered Izuku as he embraced Nemuri's forehead and embraced her in his arms. Nemuri slowly went drowsy as she leaned her head on Izuku's. Izuku accompanied his wife until she relaxed and had a proper shut-eye. While they were sleeping, Izuku was woken up by Nemuri's troubled mumbling. As it turns out, Nemuri was having dreams recalling what happened earlier. Seems like that incident has such a major impact on her. Luckily Izuku was there to sort out the situation, as if he hadn't came, the consequences may be unimaginable. "Everything is okay. As long as I'm here, nothing bad will ever happen to you," comforted Izuku, whispering on Nemuri's ear as he embraced her tighter. With this, Nemuri's mumbling stopped. Izuku slowly got out of bed, leaving Nemuri behind sleeping peacefully. Then went to the kitchen and pulled out a big pot from the cabinet. "It's time to get some cooking done," said Izuku as he prepared the dish that he's about to make. A few hours later, Nemuri was woken up by a wonderful and enticing smell of herbs and aromatics wafting through the air. She then went down to the kitchen and saw Izuku putting the big pot on the table. "What did you make, dear?" asked Nemuri, rubbing her eyes. "Why don't you take a look yourself?" said Izuku as he opened the lid of the pot. Nemuri then took a glance on what's inside and her eyes brightened. "It's her favorite whole-boiled chicken." "Wow, it smells amazing," said Nemuri. "Why don't you wait in the living room and watch some TV as I will just prepare this for you to try," said Izuku as Nemuri went to the living room. Izuku then took the chicken and carved off some of the BRST part and sliced it to bite-sized pieces and placed it on a plate. After that, he placed a pan in medium heat and took a generous chicken stock from the pan and put it in the pan. Izuku then took a cup worth of rice and mixed it together with the chicken stock in the pan. To fancy things up, Izuku put in black pepper, diced carrots, and chopped scallions. After it cooked, Izuku placed the chicken rice neatly beside the sliced chicken BRST and brought it to Nemuri. "Here you go, dear. I hope you like it," said Izuku as he presented the dish to Nemuri. "It looks good." As soon as Nemuri took a bite, she immediately teared up. "Why, what's the matter, dear? Did you not like it?" wondered Izuku. "No, it's not that. It's delicious. I'm just reminded that it's the very first food you ever cooked for me," cried Nemuri as we see a childlike side of her. "I will cook this for you for how many times you want me to," said Izuku as he gave Nemuri the warmest smile he can muster to make his wife feel at ease. "Well then, it's time for me to fetch Eri from school," said Izuku looking at the clock. "Be careful," replied Nemuri. "I will," answered Izuku. Izuku then went to Eri's school to get her. When they arrived home, Eri quickly ran towards Nemuri with tears and snot-riddled face. "Mama!" "What?" cried Eri as she dashed to Nemuri and hugged her. "Eri dear, what happened?" asked Nemuri worried. "Papa said that Mama H had a bad day at work today," cried Eri. Nemuri just smiled as she also embraced the crying Eri. "It's okay, dear," comforted Nemuri. "Are you sad, Mama?" asked Eri. "Knowing that you're worried about me, I don't feel sad anymore," smiled Nemuri. "Really?" exclaimed Eri. "Yes, really. Mama is okay now thanks to you, Eri," said Izuku as he lifted Eri up and wiped her tears away. "I made Mama happy. That's so cute," thought both Izuku and Nemuri. With that settled, the Midoriya family sat on the table together and enjoyed a hearty and warm dinner full of smiles and laughter. Ring. Ring. The cafe's hanging doorbell rang as the door opened up, revealing Izuku. He then went to the counter and had a seat. There he was greeted by Kyuko. "What brings you here, Izuku-sama?" Kyuko greeted in a low voice. "I need your assistance to clean up some trash," replied Izuku as he took a sip of the coffee brought by Kyuko. "Is it about that incident?" "I sincerely apologize that we didn't get to protect MDM that time with the villain's invasion," apologized Kyuko. "It's alright. You no longer have that duty, but as you still occasionally keep my wife safe, I'm thankful," said Izuku. "And no, it's our pleasure to be of service to you and MDM," stuttered Kyuko, contradicting her calm persona. "So about my request?" "Yes, of course we'd be willing to give you a hand. We can deal with this matter ourselves, so Izuku-sama can just leave it to us," replied Kyuko. "That won't do. I have to settle this myself. They dared to try and bring my wife harm, so it's only natural I pay them back personally, right?" smiled Izuku. "Why, yes, I understand." After their short discussion, Izuku left for the supermarket as usual. "So you still have feelings for our boss, huh?" "You poor thing," said Edward, one of the two large guys who are accompanying Kyuko in the cafe. The two are Edward and Eddie. He then got elbowed by Kyuko right in the solar plexus. "A huck? Shut up if you don't want to lie in the hospital," growled Kyuko, cracking her fists. In the Midoriya household, after the family has eaten a fulfilling dinner together, they slept comfortably under the appealing moonlight. Both Eri and Nemuri slept comfortably, but not Izuku. As it's time to settle matters, Izuku got up of bed, leaving Nemuri soundly asleep, and put on a suit that he never thought he'd wear once again. "This sure brings back memories," said Izuku as a spine-chilling smirk formed on his mouth unknowingly. With that, Izuku fled and came to a quite large abandoned dark storehouse. There he was met with Kyuko and the two guys behind her. "We gathered as much former members of the association as we can," said Kyuko as numerous individuals revealed themselves under the shadows of the storeroom. "We greet the Lord," they exclaimed in unison. "We never thought we'd get to see you wear your suit once again, sir," said Eddie excitedly. "This will probably be the last time I'll ever wear this," said Izuku. "With the help of our intel, we have uncovered the location of the LOV's hideout," said Kyuko as she pulled out a device which revealed their location and handed it to Izuku. "Good, well then let's get cleaning," said Izuku as he led the way. Meanwhile, in the LOV's headquarters. "To think that you'd fail this miserably even though you brought the Nomu in killing All Might," said Dabi mocking Shigaraki. "What did you just say?" yelled Shigaraki in anger. "What I'm saying is that you're pathetic," replied Dabi. "I'm going to kill you." The two was about to lunge at each when Stain got in their way. "Don't button you newbie," shouts Shigaraki with Stain's blade pointing at him. As they were arguing amongst themselves, Izuku and his group finally arrived. The members scattered around to occupy the whole base, making sure no soul can hope to escape. Izuku was accompanied by Kyuko, Edward, and Eddie. While they are walking towards the LOV's base, Izuku encountered a villain who is seemingly taking a leak on a nearby tree. The said villain immediately noticed them. "Who are you?" questioned the villain. "Us? We're just here to massacre all of you," replied Izuku smiling. The villain then bursted out laughing as he walked towards Izuku. "You must be out of your mind. Who do you think you are?" mocked the villain as he spat on Izuku's suit. This might be the biggest mistake he ever done, as this cost the villain his head. Wondered the villain as his vision went spinning and finally he can see the ground. Kyuko swiftly severed his head with her blade. The villain made no resistance at all as he died without knowing what happened. Edward immediately wiped off the spit on Izuku's suit with a napkin. Shigaraki and Dabi's argument came to a halt when a disturbance from outside ensues. One of the villains went inside to reveal the cause of the disturbance. "We are under attack. And their numbers are comparable to us," panicked the villain. This made Shigaraki even angrier as he grabbed that villain by the neck and used his quirk to decay him. "What a coward," growled Shigaraki. Says the one who said his breathes on Chapter 12. Shigaraki and the rest of the main group went outside to check on what was happening. As they got out, they saw several men wearing black suits advancing towards them. "We are at your command, my lord," said Kyuko. "Listen up everyone, eliminate all of them and leave none behind," commanded Izuku as the men behind him charged towards the LOV's base. "Everyone get ready. We're under attack," said Kurogyari as the villains also engaged. The villains' resistance was proven useless as Izuku's subordinates just mowed them down like grass in a garden. "Ah, how I missed this feeling," said Izuku as his body felt hot all over while. A massacre commenced as Izuku's subordinates just demolished the villains, but due to their quantity and there's also a number of strong and capable ones, Izuku's group are also having quite a hassle dealing with them. As the battle continued, Stain slipped on the enemy and rushed towards Izuku to target him first. "If I kill the leader first, the rest will retreat," analyzed Stain as he went for the kill. Kyuko interferes as she blocked Stain's blade with her sword. "You can block it?" utters Stain as he didn't expect to see such a capable swordswoman. "Like I'd let you harm our lord," replies Kyuko, slowly overpowering Stain. While Kyuko was preoccupied of fending off Stain, she didn't notice blue destructive flames coming her way. Fortunately, Izuku stopped the flames with his bare hands, causing his whole arm to get burnt. "That flame sure was hot," said Izuku, shaking of the flames on his arms. "I didn't think you would stop my quirk with your bare hands," said Dabi as he revealed himself. "My lord, are you all right?" asked Kyuko. Izuku then grabbed Stain's wrist and threw him quite distance away. "You can continue your fight over there, I'll handle this," instructed Izuku. "Ah, yes," replies Kyuko as she went to where Stain was thrown. Izuku then gazed back to Dabi. "Now, where were we again?" Dabi launched a powerful punch which was covered with his blue flames towards Izuku, but it was blocked once again. "You're such a bad-mannered kid," smiles Izuku. "Shut up," exclaimed Dabi as he now strikes with a kick directly on Izuku's head. Just like playing with a child, Izuku easily dodges through a punch on Dabi's solar plexus. "Ugh," winced Dabi in pain as he held his aching stomach. But that didn't stop there. Izuku then held both Dabi's arms and headbutt him, fracturing Dabi's skull. After that, Izuku kneed his liver, causing Dabi excruciating pain. The beating continued as a one-sided brutalization ensues. Dabi tried to defend himself and fight back as well, but that was proven to be useless as he's just being played by Izuku. After a while, Dabi slumped down with his body all pummeled up. "You're pretty boring," says Izuku, kicking Dabi so strong he flew and crashed on a nearby tree. "Eha!" A loud yell came from a certain direction pointing towards Izuku location. It was Muscular charging towards Izuku at a high speed. "Isn't this scene quite familiar?" said Izuku to himself, remembering the Nomu incident. As Muscular was about to crash into Izuku, he was stopped on his tracks by two gigantic men, Edward and Eddie, who are comparably bigger than him even though Muscular already fully augmented all his muscles. "Let us play with you, little man," said both Edward and Eddie in unison as they sent a powerful punch on Muscular's gut. The force was enough to blow Muscular away a few distance, but Eddie and Edward held on to him as they kept smashing his abdomen with their boulder-like fists. This is the first time Muscular felt this overwhelmed by anybody. The sheer strength that the two displayed was more than enough of what his body can possibly take even with his high defenses. Edward and Eddie even took turns playing with him like a punching bag. With this, Muscular, a villain who is proud of his strength and toughness, only amount to being a sandbag to these monsters. As the battle of both sides continues, somebody just landed on the middle of the battle and caused the ground to shake. "Emster!" exclaimed Shigaraki upon seeing AFO. "To think there's someone with enough guts to attack my domain," utters AFO as he led the villains as they advanced, overpowering Izuku's subordinates. "And now that our leader's here, why, you're all doomed," stammers Muscular in his pathetic state. "So that person the one who planned on invading U.S.J?" asked Izuku as he walked towards Muscular, who is currently laying on the ground. Muscular: "So you're the one who ruined our plan to kill All Might?" Izuku: "So you're planning on getting rid of Toshinori?" Muscular: "After we kill you all and All Might, W going to kill everyone you hold dear." "Ha!" Izuku then crushed Muscular's head with his foot. "Too bad for you, as I plan on having you all be buried here." "This has gone for way too long already," said Izuku as his body emits a horrifying sense of dread and malevolence in the form of black energy surrounding him. Black wings that brings the feeling of malice sprouted on his back as Izuku flew up in the air and gazed down to look at everyone like mere ants scurrying around. This form is different from what he displayed in the U.S.J incident. Back then, Izuku emitted bright fiery energy, but now, it's nothing but a never-ending darkness. Kyuko from a distance noticed this anomaly and quickly warned the Izuku's subordinates through their earpieces. "Everyone, get back," ordered Kyuko. The subordinates who noticed Izuku's presence in the air and heard Kyuko's warning fled the battlefield and retreated back. Kyuko also retreated back after pulling her sword on Stain's He and swung it on the ground to rid of the BLD. Izuku pointed his arm down towards the villains and opened his palm. A rampaging gust of dark energy violently gathered at the palm of his hand. Those energies gathered in an enormous amount that slowly condensed itself to form a small sphere the size of a marble. "Farewell." Izuku fired the sphere like a beam. A few seconds after it hit the surface, the whole area got blown up, turning everything around it to ash. Even with that much destructive force released by Izuku, it was unprecedented to him that someone can survive that. "Oh, interesting," said Izuku, seeing as AFO was still standing in the middle of the giant crater that was created by his blast. Izuku then flew towards AFO. Why are you doing this?" "I didn't think there'd be somebody as powerful as you," questioned AFO with half his body destroyed from Izuku's powerful attack slowly regenerating itself. "You harmed my wife and those close to me." "Well, I really need to stop talking since a dead man doesn't need to know much," replied Izuku as he channels yet another powerful blast. "You think I'll go down without a fight?" "I'll fight you to death," yelled AFO as he regenerated his whole body back. No, I won't fight you," said Izuku as he retracted his channeling. "What do you mean by that?" questions AFO. "A fight means exchanging blows by both sides." "I'm just going to kill you, so this won't be called a fight, right?" smiled Izuku. Vines suddenly protruded from the ground and held Izuku incapacitated. Don't underestimate me, screamed AFO as he blinked towards Izuku and sent a devastating punch on him. Izuku got buried on the ground as AFO kept pummeling him. How weak, mumbles Izuku whilst getting struck by AFO. AFO felt a sense of danger as his whole body tingled. He then took a distance away from Izuku. Izuku slowly got up with no scratches on his body even after all that attack AFO has done. What is this? Me afraid? You've got to be kidding me, thought AFO, seeing his hands shaking uncontrollably. In respect of your guts to confront me, I'll at least give you a noble death. Kyuko, pass it to me, said Izuku as he called out to Kyuko. Yes, my lord, replied Kyuko as she appeared in front of Izuku and gave him a briefcase and slowly opened it. In the briefcase lies Izuku's most treasured possession. A kitchen knife. This is a knife specially picked by Eri when they went to buy kitchen tools. With this knife, I'll end your life, said Izuku confidently. The rest of his subordinates who are currently watching this couldn't help but wheeze and snicker from their leader's antics. Just how much are you going to mock me? Yelled AFO with his anger already reaching max. Izuku really is the best at pissing off and making fun people. Right arm first, utters Izuku as AFO got his right arm sliced off cleanly. What? Thought AFO to himself as he saw his arm fall off of his torso. It happened so fast he didn't even notice Izuku had already attacked him. Left arm, right leg, left leg. AFO laid on the ground only with his torso and head remaining. Izuku then walked towards him with a smile on his face. Ah, I made you into this armless, legless thing rolling down the ground like a turd that I in the wind. Do you feel me? Said Izuku. Who the hell are you? Stammers AFO. I am Venom. Nah, I'm just your normal house husband, replied Izuku as he sliced AFO's head clean off his neck. With this concluded, the League of Villains. A villainous group got wiped out of the face of the earth in one fell swoop. The ray of the sunrise slowly made its way to light up the dim world as morning came to pass. Izuku and the other members dispatched and came back to their daily lives as their last job has finally concluded. Kyuko, Eddie and Edward was left behind together with Izuku. In addition to that, Shigaraki was left alive by Izuku considering that he was Nana's grandkid. Shigaraki was then put in prison in price of sparing his life. I guess it'll be the last time I'll be wearing this mask, said Izuku as he took it off. Izuku then put the mask on Kyuko's face when she was unaware. I'll pass on this mask to you, dearie. You can decide if you want to revive the group or not. I now appoint you the new owner of that mask, says Izuku, making Kyuko blush a tint of red under the mask. Why is she the one to take on your mantle, boss? Complained Eddie and Edward in unison. They were then got pointed at by the tip of Kyuko's blade, who is currently oozing out bloodlust. Do you have a problem with that? Asked Kyuko, which made the two shiver. And nothing, stuttered Edward as Eddie just whistled his way out of it. Kyuko then faced back at Izuku again and said, But are you really sure you want me to take on your position, boss? It's up to you whether you follow on my footsteps or you make your own legacy. You have been by my side for years now and I know you'll do just good, smiled Izuku. Kyuko then reminisced on the past when she was just a ragged child roaming down the streets trying to survive. She would never forget the warmth of the time when Izuku stretched his hand out for her and pulled her out of her nightmarish life. Izuku took her under his wing and took care of her. And with that, Kyuko was very grateful that she met him. A smile on her face just popped up as Kyuko remembered the past vividly. Looks like someone had butterflies on their stomach again, said Edward in a whispering manner towards Kyuko's ear. Kyuko sent a straight hook on Edward's stomach which made him drop on the ground. Do you also want me to put butterflies on your stomach? Said Kyuko as she directed her stare at Eddie, in which he shook his head in denial. Izuku was chuckling watching them like they were children playing around. Well, they are indeed children for Izuku. I think I should go home now. It's almost morning, says Izuku as his appearance changed back to how they were before with a snap of a finger. Moments later, Izuku was finally home. As he opened the door, he saw Nemuri inside with both her arms crossed on her settee and a pouty expression with her foot constantly hitting the floor as if she's frustrated. Eri was also by Nemuri's side, seemingly imitating what she's doing but in an extremely cute way. You can just go and imagine it. Good morning dearies, says Izuku awkwardly. Where have you been this early in the morning? When I woke up you're gone, asked Nemuri. Yeah, added Eri, also making her lips pout. Izuku then showed them a plastic bag on his hand. A few minutes earlier. Why don't you stop by the cafe first and I will just prepare some things for boss to take home, suggested Kyuko. I don't think that would be necessary, replied Izuku, but was met with a serious blushing look from Kyuko. Very well then, said Izuku, which made Kyuko's mood to light up as they went to the cafe. Kyuko prepared coffees, chocolate milk for Eri and some sweets and biscuits to go along with it. After that, Izuku took off. Good thing Kyuko insisted I bring these home, now I have some excuse, thought Izuku in relief. I brought some things to have together for breakfast since it's Sunday, we can take the day slowly, said Izuku. Nemuri then lightened when she saw what Izuku brought back home. Let's eat breakfast then, suggested Nemuri as she pulled Izuku inside together with Eri. Izuku and Eri sat down on the sofa and Nemuri put on an apron. You two can just watch the morning show. I'll be the one to make breakfast this time, said Nemuri as she headed to the kitchen. After a while, breakfast was finally ready as they happily ate together along with the drinks and pastries Izuku brought. When Eri finished up her chocolate milk, she immediately dozed off and slept on the couch after eating. Izuku put a blanket on her to keep her warm as he and Nemuri went outside enjoying the gleaming ray of day as they indulged on their coffee. I really wonder if this is just a dream, said Nemuri as she leaned her head on Izuku's shoulder. What makes you say that, dear? Asked Izuku. Well, I mean it's just too good of a thing to be real, isn't it? A perfect husband, a cute daughter and a wonderful married life. Izuku then leaned towards Nemuri and pressed his lips on hers, which made the unsuspecting Nemuri to blush madly. There, do you think it's still a dream? Asked Izuku once again. Real smooth brotha. That's unfair, stuttered Nemuri whilst playfully hitting Izuku's. I love you dear, said Izuku. Nemuri can't help but blush some more as her face is now beet red. I love you more eyes. Izuku held Nemuri's cheeks as they once again embraced lovingly under the sunrise.